Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Kai and without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into today's video. So welcome back to another episode of I Do Nails, You Relax. And this has kind of become an unintentional series that I started not too long ago. And my goal for the series is of course to provide you with some relaxation and your only job is to sit back and enjoy the video. So let's go ahead and jump straight into that. To kick off this process, I'm going to go in with a little bit of nail prep, and as always, I like to start by cleaning off my implements with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. As I've mentioned before, my tools and implements are always cleansed and sterilized prior to me sitting down and doing my nails, and that's an entire process all in itself, but I do like to sanitize with some alcohol afterwards just to be extra cautious. And likewise, I'll be cleaning off the surface of my nails with alcohol as well. The first step in all of this is to push back my cuticles, and to help me do this, I'm going to be using some cuticle remover. I like to apply this directly on top of my cuticles, and I allow that to sit anywhere between 5 and 15 seconds. Once that's had some time to set in, I'm going to go straight in with my cuticle pusher and just gently push things back. And because the skin has been softened, it's a lot easier and less strenuous to push these back as opposed to if I was to do this process dry. Even still, despite my skin being softer, I do like to make sure to be as gentle as possible to ensure that I'm not damaging my nails. Next, I'm going in with my cuticle nippers, and I'm going to start to cut back the excess cuticle and also a little bit of the proximal nail fold as well. Removing the cuticle before you do any type of nail set is absolutely mandatory and crucial, especially if you want the nail set to be long lasting. However, cutting back the proximal nail fold is cosmetic, and with that being said, is absolutely not necessary to do. If you are a beginner or this is not a process that you are comfortable with, do not feel obligated to do this. It is absolutely okay to skip, but I'm going to go ahead and do this very quickly. I don't have much to do, so I'm not going overboard, just getting any of the little pieces that I wasn't able to get initially. Now let's go ahead and size out these nail tips for today. I decided to do some gel extensions today because they're pretty simple and straightforward, so I'm going to go ahead and just size out all of these nail tips, making sure that they fit sidewall to sidewall. And with that being said, I do like to make sure that the fit is nice and comfortable and not too snug. Because the inside of these nail tips are pretty shiny and smooth, they are definitely going to be prone to popping off directly after I put them on. So before I even consider gluing down these extensions, I'm going to file the inside of the nail tip, and I like to go in with a cuticle bit or anything that has a nice grit. Honestly, you can use whatever you have or whatever works best for you. And if filing the inside isn't your forte, you could always try some acetone. And because the acetone starts to melt the gel, it helps to create just a little bit of texture and friction. To cure on these nail tips, I'm going to be using my UV lamp and of course some builder gel from Model 1s. This is my go-to product when I am doing these gel extensions, and I especially love it because it has a really nice and thick consistency, meaning that when I apply these nail tips, it doesn't flood and start to get onto my skin, which is definitely not good for your skin, especially if you are sensitive to certain ingredients in gel products. So yeah, it's just a product that I've been really enjoying. So to get us started, I'm of course going to remove the dust from the inside of these nail tips, and I'm going to go straight in with that builder gel directly onto the area that I filed with my cuticle bit, of course making sure not to apply too much. And before I place the tip down, I do like to add just a little bit of gel towards the tip of my natural nail. And next, I'm going to place down the nail tip, making sure to apply an even pressure on all sides. And once everything is nice and straight, I'm going to go ahead and cure this. So before we move on to the shaping process, I'm going to cut down a good bit of these nails using some tip cutters. Now I'm taking some straight edge nail clippers and I'm going to be cutting these into a rough almond shape. If you have some almond gel nail tips, that is definitely the way to go. I personally don't because I feel like it's unnecessary if I already have these nail tips that work. So yes, I'm going to use these clippers, and for the most part, I'm just getting a really rough shape. They don't have to be perfect at this point as long as you have a good baseline to work with. And now it's time to shape these up, and for the most part this is a pretty straightforward process, but even still I do like to make sure to use a dust collector as always. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my nail file, and I'm going to use this to file the sides and just really correct and smooth out the almond shape. For today, I am using an 80/80 grit nail file, which is just something that I happen to have on hand, but this grit is not necessary. You can always go with something a bit higher, especially because these are just gel nails. It's not acrylic, so it isn't super hard. But yeah, just thought I'd let you know that that is the grit that I'm working with today. Next up, I'm going to be taking this medium ceramic bit, and I'm going to use this to work it around the cuticle area to help further seal these nails in. For the most part, I don't really have too much to do because my application was pretty smooth, but if you do have a major ledge or even if you have some flooding, this is the perfect time to go ahead and take care of that. Do bear in mind though that these are just gel nails, so even still you want to be as gentle as possible. And of course you don't want to overfile and start filing away too much of the gel nail tip. And so for reference, I like to use a speed of about 7,000 to 8,000 RPMs to help me keep a handle on making sure that I'm not filing away too much of the nail, and also to prevent me from hurting myself and accidentally cutting myself with this drill bit. And to close off the shaping and filing process, I'm going to very quickly go ahead and just buff these nails with a mini buffer, and I'm just making sure to remove all of the shine from these nail tips. And at this point, we are finally ready to move on to the nail art. So we are now onto the nail art process, and as always, this is the nail set that we're going to be doing for today. And so to get us started, I'm going to go ahead and just mix out all of the colors that I need for this nail set. So before we get into anything, the first thing I'm going to do is just wipe off my nails with a little bit of alcohol. all of my sets, the first thing I like to focus on is laying down all of the base gels and getting the easy work done before we move on to more difficult nail art. So the first thing I'm going to do is go in with this nude gel polish on my middle finger, and for reference, I do like to go in with 2 coats of all of my base gels just to make sure that they are as opaque as possible. Now for this nude gel, this is a builder gel, so I try and apply this gel pretty thin as to not make it too bulky, but even still, I want to try and get enough of this gel on there so that I can have a pretty nice nude base. Now for my ring finger, I'm going to be going in with this milk white, and this is a pretty tricky color, especially because I did make this myself, so I had to make sure to apply this as evenly as possible to prevent any streaks. So yeah, it was definitely a bit of a challenge, but I just took my time and I did spend a pretty good while doing this, but even still, I think it came out pretty okay in the end. And again, I did do this in about 2 layers. And before I cure any of these nails, I do like to make sure to wipe down the sides to ensure that I'm maintaining the integrity of my shape. For my pinky nail, I'm going to go in with this dark blue color, following the same steps I did for the other 2 nails. And just to make sure that I'm closing off all the gaps, I'm going to take this small liner brush and I'm going to use this to get into all of the nooks and crannies. Now obviously I don't like to put too much gel onto the brush when I'm doing this because I really don't want it to flood into the cuticle area, so that is something to keep in mind. So now we're going to focus on the French tip on this middle finger, and for that I'm going to be using this cream color that I mixed using some white and a little bit of like this mustard orange color. And to create this French tip, I'm going to be using the longest liner brush that I have just to ensure that these lines aren't shaky and that everything is nice and smooth. My French tip is pretty low towards the cuticle area, but obviously if you want it to be more deep, you can always customize it that way. I didn't want to make it too high towards the tip of the nail because my nude is a bit sheer and I really didn't want to be able to see my natural nail underneath this. But again, of course, you can always customize it to your liking. Just do bear in mind that we are going to be putting some nail art onto the French tip, so you might not want to make it super deep to the point where you can't fit anything on top of it. But yeah, I did keep mine pretty low, and again, I did this in about 2 layers. jumping to probably my favorite nail in this nail set. This one has kind of like an eye pattern, if that makes sense. I'm not exactly sure what the nail tech was referencing with this nail, but it definitely gives me very 70s mid-century vibes. And what I'm doing is basically creating a softened diamond shape, if that makes sense. And for this one, I'm using a pretty small assortment of colors. I am going to be using a dark and a light blue. I'm using a milky white as well as a fully opaque white. And I'm also using a beige/orangey color as well. Once the first layer of those diamonds are on, I'm going to go in with some cat eye gel on some of the diamonds, not doing all of them, just like 2 or 3. Now in hindsight, you don't necessarily need to do this. It's not a must, especially because the center of these diamonds or eyes is going to have a rhinestone in the middle, so it might not be as evident in the end. But I noticed that that's what they did in the reference photo, and I feel like it definitely made it come together with the rest of the nail set, especially because it is so sparkly and glittery. And now let's jump to our pointer finger. So as you can see, I'm painting the entirety of the snail using a light blue, and this is going to be the base for the cat eye background. Unfortunately, I don't think that my blue was exactly what they did here, but I felt like it was pretty close, and I wasn't really too concerned with it being a 1-to-1 replica, if that makes sense. So I think this blue worked pretty okay. And after I got the blue on, I did go over that with some more of that cat eye gel, and I pulled it pretty much toward the center and just left it pretty basic. I didn't do anything too crazy with cat eye designs because I don't really know how to do that, and I just kind of suck at these magnets, so I kept it pretty simple and I went ahead and cured that. And now we're moving on to some of the airbrushing for these nails. For the French tip nail, it's going to be a cream to dark brown airbrush. And so I took some orange and brown airbrush paints, got the color that I needed, and I kept the airbrush isolated towards the tip of that nail. For my pinky nail, I'm going to do a very light blue aura in the center of this nail. And this aura is pretty minimal, so I didn't really go too crazy and add too much of this light blue. And when I'm done with the airbrushing, I usually like to go in with a little bit of alcohol and a cleanup brush and just remove any excess gel from around my cuticle area before I cure. Now once the airbrushing is done, I'm going to go in with some matte top coat on all 5 nails at some point, but for now I'm going to focus on my 4 nails, that being my pointer, my middle finger, my ring finger, and my pinky. The reason I am going in with a layer of matte top coat is because this is going to provide a pretty smooth surface for our chrome detailing that we're going to be doing in just a bit. So I'm making sure to apply this as evenly as possible, making sure that there aren't any super evident streaks. And once that's done, I'm going to cure that for a full 60 seconds. And now we're working on the chrome detailing on the pointer finger first. So I'm taking some black gel polish mixed with some top coat, and I'm going to use this to draw some blobs in the center of this nail. These are going to be the cutouts that are still visible after I do the chrome detailing on top. And of course, once the outline is done, I'm just going to fill in all of those gaps. And now that that's done, I'm going to cure this for about 15 to 20 seconds. Once everything is cured, I'm going to go in with my gold chrome powder. For the detailing on my ring finger, I'm just going to be outlining the diamonds that I did initially, making sure to use a pretty long liner brush that's fairly thin because I really don't want to overtake the diamonds that I drew initially. I still want them to be able to shine through. And after curing that, of course, I'm going to go in with some more gold chrome powder. For my pinky nail, this one's going to be a little bit different. We are, of course, going in with that sheer black, and I'm doing a very, very simple black outline with this gel polish. The only difference is that this nail actually uses some silver chrome powder, which I thought was very interesting because I didn't initially think that there were different metallic tones in this nail set until I looked at it further. But either way, yes, after that's cured, I'm going to go over that with some silver chrome powder, and I'm making sure to burnish this as best as I can. Now here's where we start to get into some of the quote-unquote 3D work. We're pretty much following the same process that we did for the other 3 nails of applying the sheer black to the nails before we go in with the chrome burnishing, except I did mix in a little bit of rhinestone glue to thicken it up. And for the middle finger, it's pretty simple. I didn't really follow too closely to the French tip line, especially because in the reference photo, it did have a wavy appearance. And for the French tip, instead of it following super closely to all of the, I guess, edges of the French tip, it's more curvy and wavy, so I wasn't really too concerned with making it perfect here. As I mentioned, the chrome work for the French tip isn't super perfect, but for my pointer finger, I really want to make sure to follow the outline of the blobs, and I really want this to be as smooth and as even as possible. I want the border to be a pretty even thickness all around, but even still, I wasn't too concerned with making it absolutely perfect, so it wasn't really too much of a big deal. Now, once all the chrome work is done for those 4 nails, I'm going to jump to my thumbnail, and I'm first going in with a layer of blooming gel over the entire surface. I'm doing a very simple croc print design using the same blue I used on my pinky nail. And to help me do that, I am using a dotting tool, and I'm going to dot some of those dots on there. I'm not really sure how to describe it, but one thing I will say is you want to make sure not to make these dots too large, and you definitely don't want them to be too close together. Otherwise, before you end up curing, they're going to just merge together, and it's going to look pretty muddy, and that's not really the look that you want to go for. You want them to be blurred, but you also want them to have a little bit of contrast between each piece, if that makes sense. Now, once the croc print is done, I did of course go over this nail with another layer of matte top coat because again, we're going to be doing some more chrome work. And just to reiterate, I'm making sure that the matte top coat is as smooth as possible and doesn't have any streaks. You really want the chrome work to have the most perfect base that you can provide. And similarly to what I did on my middle finger, I'm going to do the same thing on my thumbnail. So now that pretty much all of the gel nail art is done, we're going to start curing on some charms and some beads. I'm first going to apply some gold beads to my thumbnail, and I'm using a variety of different sizes, and of course I'm curing these down with some rhinestone glue. And for my middle finger, I'm keeping in line with what I did on my thumbnail, except I'm also going to be using some very, very small gold beads. And these smaller beads are going to be closer towards the French tip line. For my ring finger, as I mentioned before, I'm going to be adding some clear rhinestones, and these are going to be directly in the center of the diamond pieces. And for my last bit of charms, I'm going to go in with some silver beads on the pinky, again using a variety of different sizes and keeping these beads pretty close towards the chrome outline. Now the last thing that I want to do is go in with some rhinestone swirls on the pinky nail, and this is something that I've been doing more recently, but instead of squeezing that rhinestone glue onto my palette, I like to place it directly onto the brush that I'm going to be using, and this personally just helps me to prevent from wasting a ton of product, and it also allows me to get a more even appearance because I can control the amount of gel that I'm placing onto the brush at one time. But yeah, I'm going to do 3 little swirls on this nail, and after each piece, I do like to cure it down using my little UV lamp. And now that everything is done, I'm going to go in with a single layer of top coat. Now, as I'm top coating these nails, I'm making sure to try and cover every single last piece, making sure to get into all of the nooks and crannies. But as you will see, when I get to my ring finger, I'm actually not going to be top coating the rhinestones at all. And I did my best to try and wrap them with the top coat without actually getting it on them. But other than that nail, I did make sure to apply it as best as I could, making sure to really top coat these nails as best as I could. So these nails are done, and here's what everything is looking like. And to close off this nail set, I'm going to go in with a little bit of cuticle oil. And that completes today's set. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this one. This nail set is definitely very magical and so beautiful. As soon as I saw this nail set, I knew that I had to recreate it. And even while I was creating it, I was definitely mesmerized. And I just love how they mixed the gold and the silver and how shiny and just like glowy these nails look. But of course, you guys let me know what you think of this one in the comments. Now, of course, these aren't a fall nail set, but definitely let me know if this is the type of nail set you'd wear around this time of year. Something about this just feels really universal. You could wear it any time of the year. And even though I had to take these off, I definitely love these nails, and I would definitely wear these like if I was actually wearing a nail set to last. I am happily surprised with how well it comes together and how well I was able to make it look, because I wasn't the most confident about doing this nail set. But yes, you guys give me your ratings down below. I really do hope that you found this video to be relaxing and that you were able to just find a moment of peace and to just sit back and enjoy the video. But yes, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you guys in the next one.